Hey there, this is Mr. Moody coming to you from my living room because as you've probably figured out by now, I am not there today. I'm trying to get over a little bit of sickness. I have a bit of a fever and I'm hoping it doesn't get any worse. So I'm taking a day to get better. But while I'm gone, I would like you guys, if you're watching this video, what I need you to be thinking about is taking your writing over the top. You need to be ready for this video by making sure that your body paragraphs are well developed, by making sure that you have a great grasp on the organization and development of your essay, that you've already thought through the cited textual evidence that you're using in your essay. Basically everything we looked at last class when we annotated a sample essay, you're already doing all of those things in your essay if you're watching this one right now. Excuse me. So first off, I want to introduce the topic of today's lesson to go over the top. The topic is this concept of rhetoric. And rhetoric is the artistic side of writing, the art of writing in a clear, effective, persuasive manner. Basically, good authors will use rhetorical devices to spice things up in their writing because think about it. You're one of 25 people in your class who are writing about the same book and it's the same style of essay. You're writing a literary analysis. You're writing about the theme of And Then There Were None. So how do you make your writing stand out? And rhetorical devices are techniques that will help you do that, will help you add that creative touch to your writing. While this video goes on, I highly encourage you to take notes in your notebook, okay? So as we go through different rhetorical devices, you can take notes on those in your notebook. And I'm also going to have you grab a copy of this model essay from the front of the classroom, and the substitute teacher, they can help you find that. It'll be up in the front of the room somewhere. I forget where I left it on Friday exactly, but you should be able to find it. And we will be annotating a rhetorical device in each paragraph of that essay. Okay? So as we go through each one, we're going to be annotating that. We're going to start with the first rhetorical device of the four that I'm bringing to your attention today. The first is sound patterns, which usually people think of with poetry. Alliteration and assonance, repeated sounds. Alliteration is repeated consonant sounds. The callous, calculating, and cruel villain. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Sally sold seashells by the seashore. Like this repeated sound of letters. Okay? That's what alliteration is. Assonance is a little bit more complicated. It's where you choose words to have a repeated vowel sound. A fine time to be alive. Instead of just saying it was a great time to live. A great time to live is a little rough sounding, but a fine time to be alive. It's like kind of this long I sound, fine time, alive, repeated. So that's what assonance is, but I would worry more about alliteration if I were you. So let's look at how alliteration could be used in a literary analysis essay. I'm going to scroll down to the second paragraph, and while this author is summarizing and kind of giving context for their textual evidence, they throw in this sentence at first. He is cool, calm, and composed, but as he feels more and more guilt, his mind races, and he feels the need to admit the crime. So, the C, we call this alliteration. Boom. Okay? So now that we marked that on here, I want you to do that on the paper one that you have in class. That's alliteration. And here's your pop quiz. Why is it alliteration? Because it has a repeated sound. Okay? the beginnings of those words. Cool, calm, and composed. See if you can do that somewhere in your essay. That'd be kind of a nice touch. Let's see. Next one, number 2, figurative language. Earlier this year, you did a blog post on figurative language where you summarized what you were reading using a metaphor, using a simile, using hyperbole, using personification. A metaphor and a simile, both of these are comparisons. A metaphor is a direct comparison of two different things. While he may seem calm on the surface, his fuse is already burning. Now the metaphor isn't like super direct, but it's basically he is this bomb. His fuse is burning. He's about to go off. And it tells you a lot. It's like without saying too much, it makes you feel like he's this ticking time bomb ready to explode, that he has this temper that's ready to go explode. A simile is similar to that, but it uses like or as to make that comparison. It's a little bit easier to write sometimes. Her lies fell apart like a house of cards. So it just gives you a cool visual of something that you're summarizing. A hyperbole is an exaggeration used to make an impact or make a point. He was the loneliest man on earth. He probably wasn't, but it gives you the idea that he was very lonely. And then personification, something that's not human, the castle walls, doing something glaring that humans do. The castle walls glared down on the approaching band of villagers. Castle walls don't even have eyes. They can't glare. But that's what makes this figurative language. It's a figure of speech. It's used to make a point. So let's look in the literary analysis essay and try to find... look at this. Figurative language. On the surface, he tries to stay calm, but as his house of lies starts falling apart, his mind begins to unravel. His house of lies. His house of lies. He doesn't actually have a house, but calling his lies a house of lies is a metaphor, and it's falling apart. I think that's pretty cool. Figurative language. Particularly, this is a metaphor. Metaphors and similes, personification, these are also sort of poetic in a way, and they force you to be creative and say things in a totally different way, in a unique way, in a fresh way. And I'll tell you what, if you can use some figurative language in your essay, it's going to make it so much more fun for me to read and anybody else who reads it. That'll help your grade, but more importantly, it's just going to make your writing better and more engaging. It makes your message more impactful. So add some figurative language. The second one we're going to look at, or the third one we're going to look at, is fittingly called the rule of 3. Some people call this a series or a triad, but basically you can use 3 phrases or 3 words in a row to make an impact. 3 is like a magic number in writing. We have 3 body paragraphs for a reason, because 3 different ideas kind of go hand in hand and add up to a nice message. So we can use 3 words or 3 phrases. Time is a gift, time is a treasure, and time is a curse. Her strong, relentless, brash attitude, 1, 2, 3 attitude, could only get her so far. It somehow just raises the stakes. It makes things a little bit more powerful to say 3 things in a row and kind of group 3 phrases or 3 words together. A couple examples of rule of 3. At the beginning, you've got a child stealing candy, a student copying a friend's homework, a husband cheating on his wife. We've got rule of 3, and these are phrases. So annotate that in your example text. We've got calm, cool, and composed. Oh, we're going to do this one again. We're going to do this one again, guys. So I'm going to click here. it's not letting me, so I'm just going to highlight this comma, and I'm going to write rule of 3, and these are words. So that was rule of 3 and alliteration. That's crazy, but those work really well together. The last one here, guilt that builds up within, guilt that begs to be released, guilt that drives him to confession. 3, rule of 3, and these are phrases. I love the rule of 3. It's pretty easy, and it's a big impact. It's like big bang for your buck. Okay, so definitely try to use a rule of 3 in your writing at least once. Repetition is the last one I'm going to talk about. Basically, you can repeat evil, evil, kind of the same word within a sentence. Evil minds will use evil means to achieve their goals. At the end of this, in the last paragraph in here, we see guilt that builds up within, guilt that begs to be released, guilt that drives him to confession. We see here guilt over and over again. Guilt is a repetition of the word guilt, which is powerful. It's very impactful. The other thing that you could do with repetition, which is really high level, is to repeat an idea or keywords from your hook in the final sentences of the essay. Let's look at what that looks like. We mentioned earlier at the very beginning in the hook how everybody might feel the guilt creeping in at some point in their life. A child stealing candy. Let's skip to the end and look at this last sentence. As any child whose shifting eyes and wobbling voice fails to conceal a lie could show us. Like, we've come back to this idea. Repeated idea of the child from, and I'm going to put in parentheses, from the hook. Okay? Repeated idea of the child from the hook. So I'm just going to highlight the child right there in teal. Boom. Repeated. There are your examples, guys. That's 5 different rhetorical, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different rhetorical devices used to make that writing better, okay? I want you focusing on using those core 4 rhetorical devices in your writing today. Push yourself to be creative. Push yourself to be fresh with your writing, and it's not easy. I mean, you might spend 30 minutes working on crafting like 1 or 2 sentences, and that's okay. That's kind of the point here is really thinking on a small scale. So good luck, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with.